Hello, dear children. Namaste, and welcome to this session of our class 10 CBSE chapter, How Do Organisms Reproduce? This is Ambika, your biology master teacher, right here on this super duper platform of Vedantu. Okay, guys, so let's begin as always with a positive quote. Without wasting any time, let me tell you something very, very positive. There are so many beautiful reasons to be happy. This applies to every single person, every single living organism on the planet, I would say. But then, honestly, I have this feeling that it's only human beings among all organisms out there on this planet that tend to forget somewhere as we grow up that life is perhaps not as good as it should be. But then let's stop complaining and start counting our blessings. Let's start counting and listing down things that we have rather than thinking about and crying over things that we don't have or those that we have lost. This is part of life, and everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. Okay, so let's remember this simple yet golden basic rule and move ahead with a positive state of mind. Yes, so with full energy, let's move on and recap with the homework question that I gave you in the last session. Why are testes present away from the rest of the body in human males? Remember in the last session, I told you about the structure of the male reproductive system, how it works, all the parts, what are their functions, and the structure of the female reproductive system. So we saw that testes are present away from the rest of the body in human males. Why is this so? This is what I had asked you. So this is basically the answer to this. The bag of skin that holds and helps to protect the testicles. It's what we call the scrotum. Okay, the testicles are the organs which make sperm, and to do this, which means to make sperms, the temperature of the testes or testicles need to be cooler than inside of the body, which means the optimal temperature for sperm production should be roughly 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, less than the normal body temperature, which means to make this happen optimally, the scrotum is located out of the body. So when a male baby is born, the testes lie in the abdominal cavity, but it later slips down through what we call the inguinal canal. Inguinal canal is what you see here in this image here. Once again, last line. So inguinal canal is what you see here in this image. Through this, once a male baby is born, the testes slips down through this canal, okay? Because it is then that sperm production happens in males. Right, so let's move on and look at who has given me the answers first. Rahul and Ria have given me the answers first and correctly, that too. Rahul says testes are in the scrotum and it stays away from the body because it needs to maintain a slightly lower temperature than the rest of the body. So sperm can develop there. It needs a favorable temperature for that. And Ria says because sperms can produce in a temperature, rather, sperms can be produced in a temperature of 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, less than normal body temperature. Okay, it says answered by Khushi. Session was awesome. My favorite subject is biology. Very, very nice to know that. Khushi, so I assume your name is Khushi, and Ria Ahuja is perhaps your username or the ID with which you have given me the answer. So thank you very much, Khushi and Rahul and everyone else who has taken the few seconds to give me the answer to this question. Right away, children, let's move on with that to understand more about the female reproductive system, because biologically female reproductive system has a lot more functions to perform than the male reproductive system, right? So we'll be looking into the details of those. We'll understand what fertilization is, we'll understand what implantation is, what is pregnancy, and what is parturition. Of course, not in detail, but according to your syllabus, whatever you need to have an idea of these basic terms. Okay, and of course we also discuss reproductive health, because we want a young generation in India, in the world rather. Let's not be selfish about our own country. I would say we need a young generation in the world who is responsible and who has the ability and knowledge to take care of their own health optimally, and reproductive health plays a huge part in that. Being aware of you know everything that happens in sex life is very, very important. Of course, it shouldn't be misused, but all this knowledge is very important, and the right kind of knowledge is important so that we can ensure all of you and other children out there develop into healthier and more responsible youth of the world. So let's start with fertilization. Remember, I told you how the female reproductive system, what it looks like, right? All its parts, I hope you remember. The ovaries, like the testes in males, there are the ovaries in females, which produce ova. And then there is the oviduct, and the uterus oviduct, or the fallopian tube as we call it, the uterus, and then we have the cervix and the vagina, right? These were the major parts of the female reproductive system. So we know that human beings reproduce sexually. In males, the germ cells produced are sperms, and in females, the germ cells produced are ova, right? We are aware of both of this. In all sexually reproducing organisms, we generally refer to this. At least in our chapter here, we are currently concerned with how it happens in human beings. Now, insemination is the process by which, through ejaculation, a male releases semen. What is semen? If you recall from what I told you in the last session, sperm plus the fluidy secretions from the accessory glands together is what we call semen. So once ejaculated, this sperm travels upward through the vaginal passage and reaches the oviduct. During sexual intercourse, when this is occurring, during the sexual act, when this transfer of semen is done into the vagina, the sperm travels upward through the vaginal passage and reaches the oviduct, travels all the way upward, reaches the oviduct or the fallopian tube. Right. So who is waiting there in the fallopian tube? There is somebody very, very important waiting in the fallopian tube, who the sperms are all competing with each other to meet. That is the ovum. Okay, so the ovum, after release by the ovary, is actually in the fallopian tube or the oviduct. And fallopian tube or the oviduct is hence the place where fertilization occurs. So let us now try and understand what implantation is. So after fertilization, what happens next? The fertilized egg, I told you it happens in the fallopian tube, right? Fertilized egg travels to the uterus, all the way down into the uterus through the fallopian tube. So ovulation happens. If you see this, we start here from the ovary, the ovum is released, and that is what we call ovulation, right? And then day 0, wherein in the oviduct, in the initial parts of the oviduct or the fallopian tube, fertilization is occurring, and then the fertilized egg, which we now call the zygote, it's actually moving further and further this way towards the uterus. The fertilized egg, called the zygote, it undergoes its first division and becomes 2 cells, 2 split to form 4 cells, and then that splits to form 8 cells, and so on and on and on. You can see the development that happens each day after fertilization. Day 0 is the day where fertilization is happening, and then day 1, day 2, day 3, all of these developments are happening. Day 4, usually the 8-celled stage, which we call the morula, gets formed, and then day 5, day 6 to 7, day 8 to 9, and further down, it moves further and further. You can see, however, the structure is getting modified, right? You will learn more details about this in class 12 if you're planning to take up biology. But then for now, all of this is there just for you to have a basic idea. It's not like directly the zygote is going into the uterus and getting fixed there. Rather, on its way to the uterus, it's just undergoing a lot of cell division stages, and eventually when it reaches the day 8 to 9 stage, in whatever stage it is, we call that the blastocyst at that stage. Okay, the blastocyst, which gets fixed or embedded in the uterine wall. This is the process which we call implantation. Okay, once implantation has occurred, that is when we say pregnancy has been established. Okay, so this is very important to understand. So we've spoken about fertilization, we have spoken about implantation. Now, What further development? I told you fertilization, this forms the zygote, and the zygote becomes the embryo, and after the initial few weeks, about 8 weeks or so, we call the embryo the fetus, because as you can see, there is a huge difference between these three structures, right? Zygote is just looking like one single cell. It becomes embryo because it's dividing continuously and becoming a cluster of cells, and the embryo gradually starts developing more and more tissues and organs to form what we call the fetus, right? Okay, so this is how it occurs. Remember, children, embryo and fetus are not synonymous. The initial stages, the initial few weeks of pregnancy is when we call it embryo. After about 8 weeks or so, we call it the fetus. Okay, now how long does this development take? I think all of us are aware of that. This entire development of a baby inside the mother's uterus takes approximately 9 months. And this period of pregnancy, this entire 9 months is what we call gestation. Okay, so gestation in human beings is roughly about 9 months. In the case of every mammal, it is different. Okay, so elephants are actually said to have the longest gestation period, which is like around 22 months or so. Imagine, like, for close to 2 years, a mother elephant carries her baby inside her uterus. Wow, so much of patience, right? This is why I think elephants are said to be the epitome of patience, and so many other good things that you can associate elephants with. Anyway, that will take me to a totally different world. Let's just focus on this now. Let's focus on human being gestation now. So fertilization, implantation, gestation. Finally, of course, the baby will be born, but before that, during these 9 months, how do you think the baby is able to survive? How do you think it's able to eat? How do you think it's able to breathe? For all of that, nature has a very, very smart plan. Okay, the mother and the developing fetus share a very intimate connection through a tissue which is called the placenta. Okay, placenta is this tissue that you can see here, this red color tissue that you see here, which is connected to the baby's body through what we call the umbilical cord. There is a common misconception that umbilical cord and placenta are synonymous. They are not synonymous. Through the umbilical cord, placenta is connected to the baby's body. Okay, so this, what you see, what is around this purple sac here is the uterus inside which the baby is developing. Okay, so it is through the placenta that the baby is able to receive its share of oxygen, nutrients, and everything from the mother's body, from the bloodstream, and in return, the baby sends away all that it does not require into the mother's blood. So let me show you that more in detail here. The baby, you can see that there is the umbilical cord which is connecting the baby to the placenta. This is the placenta. Okay, this is the placenta. But this portion is what is zoomed in here and shown beautifully. So you can see that the placenta is a connection between the some of the baby's tissues and some of the mother's tissues. So this red and blue wire-like structures that you see here are the blood vessels, okay? Because it's through blood that all this transfer is happening. So fetus to mother, all this transfer happens. Whatever the baby doesn't need, it's like, mommy, take all of this, I don't want it. Okay, carbon dioxide, urea, hormones. And what happens then? It gets eliminated just like any other waste is eliminated through the mother's body when the mother exhales, or filtered by the mother's kidneys and so on. Okay, which is why we say women have a lot more intimate connection with the baby than the father. I mean, mothers have more of an intimate connection because even before the baby comes into the world, so much of interaction is happening, knowingly or unknowingly. Mostly unknowingly, right? Most of this happens unknowingly. But then they say the mother has to eat well, sleep well, and all of that, so that the baby is also born healthy. Because as you can see here, nutrients, oxygen, antibodies for immunity, vitamins, water, everything enters into the baby's body through the mother's blood. Okay, this is about fetal development. This is what happens through the 9 months of pregnancy. Of course, with every month, the kind of changes that happen are very different, which you will learn more in detail in class 12. Okay, now what happens at the end of the 9 months? The baby has to be delivered. The baby has to come out into this beautiful world. And that act is what we call parturition. The rhythmic contraction of muscles in the uterus results in the birth of the baby. So labor or birth of the baby is what we call parturition. Okay, this term. So let's just see if we can make it easier for you, like to recall. I know there are too many terms. Fertilization, which is the act of the process by which sperm and egg fuse with each other to form the zygote. And then implantation, wherein the blastocyst gets embedded in the uterine wall. This is when we say pregnancy is established. And then comes gestation, which is that entire period of pregnancy, the 9 months in the case of human beings. And then parturition, which is the act of expulsion of the baby or delivery of the baby from the mother's body. And this, how does this act? This acts with the help of a lot of hormones. Oxytocin is said to be the major hormone which controls uterine contractions at the time of delivery. Okay, so continuous contractions keep happening and the baby tries pushing out and delivery occurs. Okay, so that's about pregnancy, parturition and all of that. And now coming to another concept, which is menstruation. So why are we talking about this now? Remember children, if you recall what I told you in the last session, the egg, one egg I told you is formed in a female every month, right? One of the two ovaries produced an egg. Alternate months, like this month, if one ovary produces, next month it might be the other ovary that produces an egg. Nonetheless, it's usually one ovum per month, right? So there are two possibilities for this ovum. One ovum is here. It can either get fertilized. If a sexual act has occurred, it can get fertilized. If that's the case, it leads to all the pathway, the entire pathway and the series of events we have discussed until now. But what if it doesn't get fertilized? No fertilization. If that's the case, what does it go through? That is when menstruation occurs. Okay, so this is basically to give you context about where menstruation is coming into picture. What if the egg doesn't fertilize? So the egg stays for a day if it is not fertilized for about 24 to 36 hours or maybe 48 at the most. But usually they say it's about 24 hours, the life of an egg inside the oviduct. And within that 24 hours or 36 hours, whatever, if it doesn't get fertilized, the egg normally gets eliminated from the body of the female. Okay, so every month actually the uterus prepares itself to receive the embryo. In case fertilization occurs this month, the uterus always stays ready in a sexually mature female. When I say uterus prepares itself, what I mean is the uterine walls. Okay, if you recall the structure, which is like this, the uterine walls, they thicken every month. Okay, the endometrial walls of the uterus thicken every month so that it's ready for implantation and development of the fetus to happen. Every month this happens in a female. And then uterus, like, it does its part. But then if fertilization doesn't occur, what happens? All of this, as you can see, yes, all these, this picture is here to give you an idea about the hormonal action. Okay, estrogens and then progesterone and estrogens during the ovulation, post-ovulatory phase, and menses, wherein you can see the myometrium, which is like one of the layers of the uterine wall. All of this plays a very, very important role in menstruation. So here, what happens is if fertilization doesn't take place, the newly formed lining, which lining I told you, right? This lining, the one that I just drew. This lining, along with this ovum, which has been formed in the by the ovary and released in the fallopian tube, breaks down and comes out of the vagina as blood and mucus. This process is called menstruation. Okay, so this occurs roughly every 28 to 30 days in a female. Roughly 28 days is what they say. So what happens is when we say the day one of a menstrual cycle, if you look at this, you would understand day one, right? Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, 7, roughly day 1 to day 7 is what we describe as the menstrual phase. In case children you are interested in understanding more about the menstrual cycle and more about the phases which are involved in this, you can also go back and check out one of the videos that I had made last year, I think for ICSE Class 10. Right, this year also I will be doing that for ICSE 10. So in case you are curious to know more about that, do not hesitate to click on that and watch. But then as far as your syllabus is concerned, this is all that you have to know. When I say 28 days, every 28 days, day 1 of a menstrual cycle to roughly day 6 to 7 of that menstrual month or the cycle is when this bleeding happens. Okay, and in the remaining days all the other events happen. Basically the cushiony covering or the cushiony layering of the uterus in preparation for receiving the fetus, and roughly around day 14 in every month ovulation is said to happen. Okay, so this is how it occurs. And then after ovulatory or after ovulation, even like within the next 24 to 30 hours or so, if fertilization doesn't occur, the next cycle continues, because all of these hormones start getting imbalanced and then they act accordingly depending on whether or not a zygote has been formed. And at the end of the cycle, again, it's ready for the next menstrual cycle, which is what you see here. This is how this overall cycle occurs. Okay, so let us now have a quick check to see where we stand. The phenomenon of rhythmic contraction of muscle, which helps in delivery of baby, is dash. Menstruation, parturition, implantation, fertilization. Okay, let's see. Rhythmic contraction, delivery of the baby, and your time is up. The answer is parturition. Yes, the first fertilized cell is called dash. Embryo, egg, zygote, gamete. Yes, you must know the difference between all of these. And your time is up. The answer is zygote. The first fertilized cell, okay, is called zygote. The development of fetus in the womb for 9 months, womb is the uterus, for 9 months is called dash. Gestation, parturition, implantation, none of these. Yes, the 9 months of pregnancy, we call it. Yes, your time is up. The answer is gestation. Great job, guys, if you have done all the questions correctly. We still have more coming up, so stay with me, because as I told you, reproductive health is one very aspect which, not just for the sake of syllabus, but also for the sake of growing up as responsible citizens of the world and of our own India, you must be aware of all of that. Okay, so stay with me, but before that I need to tell a few things, okay, which will be very useful to you as far as your academics are concerned. Now, many of our children come up and tell us that these are the problems that they face in today's world of online education. They have a lot of unanswered doubts because they don't get to meet their teachers on a daily basis, like not unlike what it was when you used to go to a school, right? And then about notes. There is nobody to check notes. There is nobody to give us guidance about how to make notes. This is a problem. Tests and assignments not happening systematically. Competitive exam preparation, even more of a problem. Choice of schedule, again a problem. Choice of language also, for some of you, it is a problem. But not to worry at all. These are not problems anymore, because at Vedantu, we've got all these problems solved for you. But not just solving these, we also have a lot of added bonuses for you, by which I mean we give you access to unlimited live classes, live interactive classes, all micro courses and crash courses which are available to you. When I say micro course, I'm not sure how many of you understand crash course. Of course, everyone has an idea. But micro courses are those which are chapter level or even topic level courses. Okay, so sometimes you may be the kind of child who needs help only with one particular chapter or one particular concept. Micro courses are actually your solution. Okay, so here you have access to all micro and crash courses, performance reports, personalized attention, and so on. Everything available to you. All you have to do is just visit the link given in the description box below. Don't forget to click on it. The coupon code that you can apply is AMBPRO. Okay, so in case you get confused while you click on the link, I'll just guide you through it. You will get an option to choose your grade. Okay, select your grade. For you guys, I'm assuming it's going to be 10. Okay, grade 10, and then select target. So for you, it's going to be CBSE 2021. If it's ICSE or Maharashtra board, choose it accordingly, and then check out all the details. I've given you the basic details, but there are a few more bonus features which are mentioned here in the courses that we call Vedantu Pro. Children, many of our past years students have all benefited from these amazing programs. So I think my personal suggestion is you guys must also avail this. Okay, Vedantu Pro, in which all of these and a lot more is included. So what do? Click on the button which says get subscription. And then we have 3 plans, basically a 1 month plan, a 3 months plan, and a 6 months plan. In the 1 month plan, the normal pricing is, which means a 1 month of full subscription to the Vedantu Pro courses, which means for that entire month you are tension free. You get unlimited access to all of these features that I have told you. Normally, like at the moment, normally the price is 2,699. But we are giving you an offer at the moment because you are our very special children who follow us regularly here also. Application of the coupon code AMBPRO. Okay, apply this and it will reduce your amount payable to 2,159.2. So is it even reasonable or is it on the expensive side? I would say it is definitely reasonable because it means all your subjects are being covered in this price in 1 month, and that too with unlimited access to all of these features. So make use of it. For 3 months, what if you wanted it for 3 months? 6,999 is normally, like without the discounts, that's going to be your price. But apply the same coupon code AMBPRO and it reduces your amount payable to 5,599.2. For 3 full months, you can be completely tension free. And then for 6 months, which means October, November, December, January, February, March, which means the next remaining 6 months that you have in your academic year, you can be completely tension free because you have full access to all the amazing courses at Vedantu. Okay, so normally at the moment the pricing is 11,499, but then apply the same coupon code AMBPRO if you are interested in this, which will reduce your amount payable to 9,199.2. Imagine for 6 full months, all your subjects, all your major subjects covered in unlimited live interactive sessions with test series and analysis, assignments and notes, recordings of classes and whatnot. All of these available to you at such a small price. Just in case you're still confused, I would suggest divide this total amount by the total number of sessions that you will be able to avail through these sessions, because that will give you the per session cost, right? Because even if you went to a normal offline tutor or a teacher, they would normally charge you, in many cities it is per hour basis, on a per session basis or a per hour basis. So just do this simple exercise and compare it with whatever you have heard from other places. Trust me, this is one of the most reasonably priced courses that you will ever find. Okay, so before the offer is given up on, before the offer is invalid, I would suggest make use of this, and the code is AMBPRO, right children? So yes, here it is, just to remind you once again. Where do you click? The link in the description box below, and here is the coupon code once again. Now coming to the last topic for today, which is reproductive health. Yes, prerequisites for sexual act. When can we call an individual ready for a sexual act? Is it only when a person reaches a certain age? Is it just that? Or is it only when a person attains puberty? Or is there anything more? Actually, individuals need to be physically, mentally, and emotionally ready. This is not child's play. Okay, there has to be complete readiness from an individual to be engaged in a sexual act. Because you guys are in your teen age now, you are all adolescents, there can be a lot of peer pressure to try out things that you guys have never tried. It's completely understandable, but then The trick is to stay away from all such groups. Okay, ensure that your surroundings and your friends are all those kinds of people who would only give you the best kind of advice, who would only give you the healthiest kinds of advice. Okay, the kinds of friends you choose at this age are very, 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 very important. Let me tell you, because all of us teachers also here have crossed that age and come. So, peer pressure, let's not fall into the trap of it. Let's go ahead as responsible young teenagers. Okay, family pressure, even for married couples, even for couples, like even for people, men and women, young adults, there may be family pressure to get married early and start a family very, very soon. There can be pressure from government agencies, which means every family has to be a planned family, every child has to be a healthy child, not more than two children per family, not more than one child per family. All of these rules keep coming up from the government side also, because it's got certain pros and cons. Of course, more of pros when it comes to a family's individual health and also the nation's health itself. And fear of STDs. What are STDs? Sexually transmitted diseases. Gonorrhea, syphilis, human papilloma virus disease, AIDS, all of these are the most common sexually transmitted diseases, right? So, fear of all this also exists around the world. Look at this HIV, this is the structure of HIV. And people fear this virus so much that, you know, even just because of this fear, many people stay away from sexual acts. There are a lot of people, there is a good majority of the world's population who is very scared of sexually transmitted diseases as well, because you never know. Externally, a person may look very, very healthy, but then this may not be the case with that person's internal health. So this is it. So many things that need to be considered. Sexual activity, as I told you, has the ability to lead to pregnancy. When insemination happens and when sperms enter into the female reproductive tract, it can possibly lead to pregnancy. But then it makes major demands on the body and mind of the woman. So if the woman is not completely emotionally and mentally ready for it and physically ready for it, it can affect her adversely. We keep hearing about teen pregnancies and things like that. So all of this happens when the person, the people involved in the sexual act are not completely mature and not completely aware about all the pros and cons of this particular act. So this is why we must be aware of methods of contraception, rather ways to avoid pregnancy. We can categorize them under mechanical, chemical, and surgical methods. Under mechanical or physical methods, condoms are the most common, most preferred also worldwide physical barrier, or the most common method of contraception, because it can be easily used as a cover by males, and these days female condoms are also available, so that the sperms cannot enter into the female reproductive tract. Okay, so during the sexual act, use of condoms can prevent pregnancy. Chemical methods or hormonal methods, as we can also call it, the one we see here is an example of a hormonal method wherein there are contraceptive pills available these days, which can be taken. Some of them are like emergency pills, which have to be taken 72 hours within a sexual act. Some pills, there are certain types of pills which have to be taken on a daily or weekly basis also. So medical practitioners normally will be able to give full advice on what would suit a particular woman's health. Okay, so some of these pills are designed to avoid fertilization itself. Some of them are one second. Okay, I'll repeat the last line. So some of these pills are designed to prevent ovulation itself, formation of the ovum itself. Some of them are designed to prevent fertilization. Okay, so a woman is free to choose. Like these days, a lot of different brands are available. Many are very, very reasonably priced also. So it's important that every individual in the country is aware of all of these methods. And another chemical method is the use of contraceptive devices. The most commonly used contraceptive device is called the copper T, which cannot be used by an individual herself. This is a device which is a tiny T-shaped device which a medical practitioner can fit inside the woman's uterus, as you see in this picture here. It can be fit inside the woman's uterus so that even if sperms do enter during a sexual act, it cannot proceed further to meet the egg, or rather fertilization is avoided. Meeting of the sperm and egg is avoided in such a method. Another advantage of using copper in this device is that copper, like chemically, it's got certain properties to destroy sperms when they enter inside the female reproductive tract. Okay, so these are not permanent solutions. These are rather copper T and other such devices stay on for roughly 2 to 3 years or so. But yes, there are pros and cons of all of these methods, and a couple should always be free to decide what is most suited to their lifestyle and their needs. Surgical methods are also available to avoid pregnancy. So these are actually permanent methods, irreversible methods. Okay. So in males and in females, there are separate methods, separate procedures which are performed. In males, it's called vasectomy, wherein the vas deferens is cut and tied up so that the sperms cannot leave the male's body. Okay, this is called vasectomy. In the case of females, fallopian tubes are cut and tied so that the ovum, even if it's released, is unable to move down further. Okay, or rather, it can prevent fertilization and entry of the sperm into the fallopian tube. We call that tubectomy because it is incision of the fallopian tube. Vasectomy because it's incision of the vas deferens. Okay, remember this difference, children, very important. Normally, I've seen in the past year's question papers, at least a 1 marker can be asked based on these. Okay, so why to waste that one extra mark? If you know these simple terms, you can easily score marks. Now, this is an image that this is a figure that shows you the sex ratio and child sex ratio in India, census 2011. As you can see, the overall sex ratio has shown improvement since 1991. Look at it, this is 1991. From here, the overall sex ratio, the red one, is showing an increase, right? Showing overall increase, but then there is decline in child sex ratio, which means 0 to 6 years of age. From here, if you observe it, from 1981 to 2011, the purple line, it's only declining. The male to female ratio. Why is it so? Female feticide, unfortunately, is very, very prevalent in India. Okay, so let's remember, children, save the girl child. And this is exactly why ultrasound, all that scanning, the pregnancy scans, government has completely banned revealing the sex of the baby while ultrasound scans are done at the time of pregnancy, because there used to be, even today there are a lot of cases where couples just want a baby boy. So when they realize that it's going to be a baby girl, they just choose to abort it. And even just because of this, our sex ratio, the male to female ratio, has been very, very imbalanced in the country, especially in India, especially. So it's high time we stopped all this because whether it's male or female, it doesn't matter. Every child is God's gift, in my opinion. So regardless of the sex of the baby, every baby is special. Okay, so let's live and let live. Okay, so let's answer quickly a couple of questions more before we end. Emergency oral contraceptive pill is to be taken within dash hours of sexual intercourse. 72, 90, 120, 148. And your time is up. The answer is 72. Yes, 72 hours of sexual intercourse. Now, HIV stands for dash. human immunodeficiency virus, human immunopreventive virus, human immunosufficient virus, none of these. Okay, very simple, I suppose. Everyone knows the answer to this, and your time is up. The answer is human immunodeficiency virus, which causes the deadly disease called AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Now, tubectomy is a surgical technique performed on dash. Female, male, both female and male, none of these. Tubectomy, remember? The surgical technique done so that dash. Just think of it. And your time is up. The answer is female. In males, it is called vasectomy. Well, great job if you have got all the answers correctly, children. And even otherwise, it doesn't matter. We will be meeting very soon with a Menti quiz also. So I hope to see you all there. Let me remind you that you now know all of these complex terms: fertilization, implantation, pregnancy or gestation, and parturition, and the basics about reproductive health. And here is your homework for today. The hormone which stimulates parturition is oxytocin. I told you that, right? It is produced by dash. What produces oxytocin? At the time of delivery, the baby's delivery or expulsion of the baby from the mother's uterus, the hormone oxytocin is produced. But what is it in the body that produces it? Tell me the answer to that. Let's see who's going to be coming up with the quickest answer. Children, do remember to visit the link given in the description box below and use the coupon code AMBPRO to avail everything that we have on Vedantu Pro. Thank you very much, children, for joining me today. Please, before you leave, hit the like button right now if you have enjoyed it, because that's the only way by which I will be able to see whether or not this has been useful to you. Please do remember to share it with all your class 10 CBSE friends, because I'm sure this is going to benefit everyone out there. Very, very important topic also, right? And please subscribe to our channel Vedantu 9th and 10th English. Hit the subscribe button right now so that you don't miss out on any of the updates that we have even in the days to come. Because it's not just your academics, we also give you a lot of extra motivation, strategies to help you prepare yourself for your board exams, and a lot more. So don't miss out on any of the updates. Stay subscribed and stay tuned. Take care, stay happy, stay healthy. Bye-bye.